It would help if I unmuted myself. How's it going, everybody? So we're about to get started here. Let some people roll in. Today, we're going to talk about AI agents. Now, if you've been living under a rock and never heard of ChatGPT, you might want to stick around and see this. But if you have heard of ChatGPT or even some of the other tools out there, and you're not exactly sure what the capabilities are, or maybe you do know what the capabilities are and wondering if you can push it further. Well, that's what we're going to do today. We are going to push some of the ChatGPT features to their limit. We're going to look at some other libraries, some other tools like LangChain, some brand new ones that you may not have heard of called Open Interpreter. So we're going to take a look at those. We're going to see if we can use the concept of AI agents to actually automate cybersecurity. We're going to see how powerful this is. So we'll give everybody a chance to roll in. We still got some, I know we got some people, some other people said that they wanted to join our stream today, some of our regular students. So let's go ahead and, all right, before we get that started, so let's take care of some housekeeping. So if you're new here, do me a favor and consider giving me a like to my channel, to this video. If you find later on, if you find out this is something that you enjoy and you want to see more, hit the like button and consider subscribing. Also, some of you are already students, but this entire stream today is coming from my cybersuperhuman.ai course. This is the Mastering AI and Cybersecurity course. As you can see there at the bottom, the title underneath the video there. So check out the courses that we have here, because everything that we cover today is all about, is all from the different course material and the videos that we go through. We're pushing the limits of AI in cybersecurity. Everything that we do in this course is specific to cybersecurity. So we're seeing how we can use generative AI and large language models to our advantage to help literally supercharge our skills. All right. All right, so let's get started. Before we actually jump into some of the challenges that we're going to work on today, and some of the seeing what we can do with these things, let's give a little background real quick, because like I said when we first started this, you know, if you've been living under a rock and don't know what ChatGPT is, let's talk a little bit about what ChatGPT is, where it came from, some of the underlying technologies, and what all this thing is. This AI agents. What is this? Let's talk about that. And I promise you, this isn't going to be death by PowerPoint. This isn't going to be a PowerPoint-filled lecture. This part's going to be quick. So for those of you that already know this information, stick with me. We're going to go through this pretty quick, but just to give people an idea here and some background on what this whole thing is. So this entire thing started started several years ago. Hey, Alex, good to see you in chat. Thanks for stopping by. So the concept of AI and cybersecurity, and let's call it machine learning to start with, this entire concept, most people have heard of machine learning and AI, but until earlier in 2023, I would say late 2022 for some people, but for the most part, it wasn't until early 2023 when the general public became aware of this thing called ChatGPT. And if you're not familiar with ChatGPT, then you might want to go back and check out some of my other videos on the channel or do some Google searching. But ChatGPT is really a revolutionary new technology in terms of, or in the realm of chatbots. And it specifically is, it surpasses anything that we've seen prior in terms of what we call generative AI or the autocorrect. So most of you are familiar with a low-level version of large language models, generative AI, this sort of AI, because you use it on a regular basis. A lot of you have used this for your autocomplete in Google searching. You use autocorrect and auto completion on your phones when you're chatting. And so that is a very simplified example, but that's essentially where this all came from. So ChatGPT uses a little bit different technology. We'll talk about this in the coming slides here, and I promise you we'll whiz through these pretty quickly. But ChatGPT is like autocomplete on steroids, literally. And it is a chatbot that is meant to mimic very closely human-like conversation. And this was specifically being researched for like customer support type chatbots and things like that. And so most of you have probably already interfaced with these generative AI chatbots that mimic human behavior when you're speaking with and to some of you may not have had good experiences with it, but when you're when you're contacting support in these chatbots, that's a lot of the times what this is. So that is really where this all started, and that is where where most of you have experienced chatbots, autocorrect, auto-completion, that sort of thing. And so help bots is really where all of this started. However, back in around 2015 is when OpenAI, or around that time, is when OpenAI started working on creating their large language model chatbot technology, which would eventually become ChatGPT. Now, there are more technologies out there than just ChatGPT in terms of the large language model, and we'll get into what that is in just a minute. But you have other tools out there that are like ChatGPT, like Bard from Google. You have Anthropic's Claude 2, and you have Meta's Llama. So you have all these different versions of it. And what people are using them for is amazing. We'll cover some of the things that people are using them for, but some of the use cases outside of cybersecurity, because that's obviously what we're talking about here today, but some of the use cases that we've seen people using it for is anything from writing articles, writing emails, writing books. It does a phenomenal job at replicating not only human conversation, but human writing. In fact, there's some controversy over that we'll get into. But it can write code. It can come up with recipes. It can come up with workout plans. And in many cases, it does this better than a human. And it does this amazingly well and accurate. And this type of AI has already passed the Turing test. And the Turing test was, and you can go Google that one, I'm not going to get into it, but the Turing test was whenever a human is unable to distinguish whether or not they're speaking to a chatbot or an AI or another human, that passed the Turing test. Now, that was at one time, that was kind of the measuring stick by which we're going to know that AI has reached, and this might be exaggerating a bit, but that's when we said AI has reached self-awareness. And that's not exactly the case now. AI has not reached self-awareness, but we're getting close to what's called artificial general intelligence, and we'll get into that. So again, all of this started, ChatGPT in itself was created by a company called OpenAI. And it's what most people refer to nowadays or recognize when we're talking about this new, and it is new, it's relatively new. I mean, this didn't come out in the general public until late 2022 that most people knew about it. And then, of course, the hype started in early 2023, earlier this year. So this is based off of an architecture called GPT. That's called ChatGPT because it's a chatbot. And the GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. We'll get into that in just a minute. But there were several models prior to that, and you may have even seen it in the news, to where, sorry, I was just reading a message from chat. So Alex says, I do find the timing a bit suspect. About 6 months after the bottom fell off crypto or so, LLMs just happened to go big. Yeah, crypto, I think it went, once you had kind of, don't even get me started with the NFTs, but that turned out to be a flop. Crypto, it's still emerging, but for the most part, it's kind of come and gone as a fad, but we haven't seen the end of it. But you're right in that large language models kind of blew up kind of fast all of a sudden, right? But a lot of that has to do with investment and the hype of investment in new technologies. And I don't want to get into kind of the technology hype curve that we've seen. I don't want to get into that too much, but that the technology hype curve does have it does have relevancy here in terms of when there's a new technology, everybody gets excited, it spikes up, and then everybody realizes, oh wait, it's not as good as we thought it was, and then falls off. And then so anyway, what we're seeing here is this ChatGPT hype. Everybody jumped on it. Everybody's really excited. Now it's starting to level off because some people realized, oh, it's novelty, and what are the use cases? What can I use it for? There's also controversy surrounding it. There's but what we're going to get into here and once we get past kind of the what is this and how does it work, I want to hopefully clear the air a little bit about these use cases. There's a lot of people have approached me asking about ChatGPT, these large language models. Are they, it's unethical, and I'm not going to use it. There's some very opinionated people that are just refuse to use it because they feel it's unethical. They feel like that it can be used to manipulate people, and any technology that can be used for good can also be used for bad. So we'll talk a little more about that as we go. And so the way that all of these language models, there we go. The way that all of these large language models work, and specifically in this case, when we're talking about ChatGPT, they work off what's called transformer architecture. And we're not going to get into the technical aspects of that, but long story short is that this is an architecture and an algorithm that uses what's called a neural network. And a neural network is a very, very, very simplified way of mimicking how the human brain works and how it learns. And that's a way oversimplification, but just think of all these different inputs, which are called parameters, they're used it learns based off of an existing data set. It learns what should come next. It's a predictive algorithm, and it basically says, based on the pattern of information that I have seen in this data set and the current context that you're giving me, which in the form of a prompt, I predict that the next character, not even the next word, but I predict that the next character is going to be this thing. And if you really think about it, in a lot of ways, that is how the human brain works. You're relying upon everything you've ever learned that you can remember in your brain, which is a lot, and you're cross-referencing that with the current context of the current conversation or whatever you're reading or whatever it is that you're doing. You're correlating all that information, and then your brain is coming up with what's the next thing you're going to say or do next. And it's all based off of historical reference, historical context to predict what should come next in this conversation. It's exactly what my brain is doing right now. And that's the way, and that is the same way that generative AI and specifically large language models work. And so these models are trained on, they're called large language models because they're trained on massive data sets that in some cases, in some data sets, contain all the information that they could gather from the internet. There's some controversy there. We'll talk about that later. Maybe not. But they're trained on code. They're on actual code snippets from a multitude of different languages. They're trained on books. They're trained on writing. They're trained on tweets from Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it nowadays. They're trained on forum conversations. So that is all the reference, all the context that these language models have. They're called large language models because they're huge, massive amounts of data. And so what people are using that for in cybersecurity, and that's where my goals and my tasks are, is that we're using that massive amount of contextual data, the ability to reproduce accurate information, sometimes not so accurate information, based off of, being able, if you can have these things, write code, write documents, and it's accurate to what a human can do and sometimes better, then that has a whole just massive use case in pretty much any field, but specifically we're talking about cybersecurity. So we can use this for doing massive amounts of data analysis. So that's one area in cybersecurity that this has a huge benefit, is you don't have to be an expert with data analysis and computer science and all this. As some of the examples that we'll see here is that this will completely simplify the entire task of analyzing data, and very quickly. And so that can translate into cybersecurity tasks in terms of looking at vulnerability assessment reports, looking at threat data. And so there's a whole lot of just use, and we'll talk more about this, but the use cases in cybersecurity are just phenomenal. So how does this actually work? So, basically we're taking this capability, this technology that can literally replicate what a human can do. And how does it do this? So how exactly does generative AI work? So as we've mentioned before, generative AI is it's a technology, it's an algorithm, it's machine learning that looks at large data sets and then predicts what's going to come next. Now, generative AI it's a general term that can generate not just words, but we're not going to look at any of these examples today, but it can generate pictures, it can generate images, it can generate music, it can generate so much more than just text. And code is included in that text. Now, so the way that it works, it uses an algorithm called a generative adversarial network, which we're not going to get into, but it's basically how it discerns what should come next. And as we've already mentioned, the large data sets that we're using are called large language models. Now, the large language model is typically the portion that generates text. So when you take generative AI, and then a large language model is a type of generative AI specifically meant to generate large, massive amounts of text and accurately. And so we've already kind of talked about, this is the first time I've ever used these slides. So we've already talked about how the transformers basically use neural networks to do deep learning. And here, let's just move on without put on that slide. All right. So again, some more of the use cases are using this capability to massively and very quickly scan through data. You can do log analysis, you can do real-time proactive threat detection, etc. So anyway, we can talk about the use cases as we go. Let's get on. I know that most of you don't want to hear me yap. You want me just to get on. So in terms of today's discussion, we're specifically talking about agents. And we can't really talk about agents without talking about AGI. So, oops, did I have a typo in there, Alex? So Alex caught a typo. Yeah, I guess it should be tasks. Oh, well. Live TV folks or live YouTube folks. All right. So AGI is artificial general intelligence. Now, the artificial general intelligence is what's kind of considered the holy grail of artificial intelligence. So so specific intelligence. So artificial, you have artificial general intelligence, and then you have specific or task specific artificial intelligence. So, which is basically going back to just general machine learning. And I'm oversimplifying all of this. And what that is I may have a specific type of machine learning or specific intelligence that is meant to do one thing. It is meant to categorize things. It is meant to do image recognition. Artificial general intelligence is where we think of artificial intelligence acting more like a human. It has a lot of knowledge. It can almost seem to reason. It can discern multitude of different things rather than just an image or just text. So once you reach artificial general intelligence, it's basically it's a completely autonomous. It can work on its own. It can learn. It can develop. So again, it's kind of what we consider to be the holy grail of artificial intelligence because it's capable of learning on its own. It's capable of reasoning, or at least seem to reason. And this is what most people would consider to be the next step towards a sentient or self-aware artificial intelligence. Now, in order to get there, and we're some people with the current speed at which large language models are moving, some people think that we're already there. Some people think that we're getting there fast. But before we do, we have what are called, I guess we could talk a little bit about, human reasoning and what the possibilities, what the theoretical possibilities are, but we're not going to get into that. That's kind of self-explanatory on what a sentient AI can do. And I'll just skip over all the other AGI stuff for cybersecurity. But I guess we could talk about how if we did have AGI in cybersecurity, it would basically be a SOC in a box, a security operations center in a box. It can automatically do penetration tests. It can simulate adversarial things. When you have an artificial intelligence that can reason, that can think like a human, you have both blue team or defensive aspects of cybersecurity as well as red team. So there's some dangers there as well, because you can end up having an artificial intelligence that can do the bidding of cybercrime gangs and threat groups. So there's a lot of different ethical challenges in terms of cybersecurity, but also just generally that we're really not going to talk too much about this. So someone asks, how would you know if, and I can't see my chat is all covered up with my emojis, if such an AGI is not compromised. You know what? That's knowing whether an AGI is or isn't compromised, I think, is a much broader conversation than I'm prepared to get into in this particular setting here. Because that you get into philosophical discussions, you get into technical discussions, and I think there are much smarter people than me that are working on the problem of how to know when AGI is compromised or not. But I think, that's one of the ethical things that people are talking about in the mainstream right now when it comes to artificial intelligence is what are the existential risks and all that. Now, if you ask me, do I believe that there's an existential risk with artificial intelligence to the human race? No, I don't personally, but that, again, way beyond the scope of what we're talking about here today. Oops, come on. My slides aren't working again. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're just gonna get past. So I had a bunch of slides prepared and didn't want to, just in case I wanted to dive deeper, but I don't really want to dive deeper into too much of the background. But so before we get to AGI, we have to have, in general, we have to have artificial intelligence that can work autonomously. Okay. And then this is where we get into the discussion of agents. That's what this whole thing is all about. So what is an AI agent? An AI agent is where you have a generative AI or large language model working to make decisions. So this isn't quite AGI. This isn't quite complete autonomous learning and reasoning. This is the step before you get to that. This is an AI system, or like a large language model, that can take in a prompt or instruction from a user, you, and make a determination of where I need to direct this to do the next task. So it's sort of like beginner level reasoning. What these agents do, well, you'll usually have a receiver agent or some sort of a proxy that will receive your information. It will derive the context from that and then make a determination. Okay, I see you want to go surf the web. So then it goes and contacts another use case or an agent or another program, a script, to where that will utilize a tool and to surf the web. And then maybe you need to analyze the results. So then that agent, which was the web surfing agent, will then say, well, I see you want to analyze this. Okay, well, let me hand this off. Oh, I see that it's cybersecurity information. So let me hand this off to the cybersecurity expert agent, which specializes. Now, these agents can be individual scripts. They can be, and as we'll look out here today, you'll see that some of these agents, it's simulated. So basically it just redirects its own context. It redirects its own, I guess is the best way to put it, its own context, so that it can better handle the situation. Sometimes these agents will actually go and spawn programs. It will actually utilize script or something on your computer and execute programs. And then sometimes the agents are simply just like an editor or a manager, somebody that an agent can, it will reason with itself sometimes. It simulates reasoning, as you'll see as we'll get into that. So that's what an agent is. So agents are multiple instances of the model, of this intelligence, working in concert with itself or other agents. And as you'll see, and we'll get into this, you'll see that it'll literally reason with itself or other agents and communicate and talk back and forth. So, all right. You know what? Let's just, so we see here, we're going to be using a framework called LangChain. That's how all this works. So best way to explain that will be, you know what? Here, let's just get into it. Enough slides, right? I'm done with the slides. Let's just get into this. Hopefully my music's not too loud. By the way, little thing about this music. So this is royalty-free music. And sometimes YouTube has a bad habit of cutting live streams off midway through because it perceives that the music is copyrighted, right? Even though this is all royalty-free, I'm authorized to use all this music. But so if the stream just cuts off all of a sudden, then maybe, that's what happened. YouTube decided not to let me play this music, but it should be fine. All right. So let's take a look at. All right, so for those of you that want to get into the more technical things, there is a library called LangChains that almost all the technologies we're talking about today are built on and based off of, okay? So before we get into that though, let's actually look at ChatGPT. Let's take an example. Let's look at an example of what these, and on how ChatGPT works in sort of an agent. Now, there's a little bit of prep work you want to do here because by itself, ChatGPT is just going to act as a chatbot. And you can't surf the internet with ChatGPT on its own. It doesn't have the access to the internet by itself, but ChatGPT has a few features. So one is the advanced data analytics. This was formerly called the code interpreter. And so now they renamed it to advanced data analytics, which I think both of them make sense. Code interpreter because it executes code, advanced data analytics because it does so much more than just than code. Then you have the plugins, and the plugins are going to extend the functionality that we'll look at. Now, by itself, ChatGPT just takes in a response. And if you'll just, I'm gonna, for the purposes of our stream here today, I'm gonna assume everyone has already used ChatGPT and knows the basic capabilities here. So I'm not gonna do that. And I know, look, also I should mention that, some of you that are my students, this is going to be repetitious for you because we've already covered some of these things in prior classes. This is a special class that's available for everybody today. So some of my students already know some of this stuff. So one of the aspects that we're going to utilize is a new feature within ChatGPT, and we're going to use more than just ChatGPT today, but I want to just show you this. The custom instructions. So custom instructions allow you to preemptively direct the behavior and control the behavior of ChatGPT. And when you utilize a prompt in the custom instructions, it will take that into account every single prompt that you do. This is a fantastic prompt that I found. I did not make this prompt up, and I'll put the link to where I got this. I'll put a link to the video that I learned about this from, as well as the person who created this prompt. But this prompt is essentially how you turn ChatGPT, going from just a single chatbot type functionality, what we call multi-shot, single shot, or zero shot instructionals, where I give an instruction, it gives me something back. Using this prompt, and I'll put this prompt in I'll put where I've got this information, I'll put that in the description, and I'll also put this prompt down in the comments. And what this is doing, this is actually a pretty complex prompt, and this is actually instructing ChatGPT to take on different roles based on what information I give it. It will actually change roles, simulating agent-like behavior so that it can more accurately respond to the context, more specifically and more accurately based on what I'm doing. It'll even ask clarifying questions. So let's take a look at this, okay? So I'm gonna do this in terms of, now, by the way, this particular prompt works better with ChatGPT 4. It doesn't work that well with ChatGPT 3.5. So you do have to have a paid version of ChatGPT Plus to get the maximum benefit, but it will still work with 3.5, just not as well. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is, there's two different ways we can do this. You can use this with the advanced data analytics to get the real power of just the code interpreter, what was used to be called the code interpreter, where it executes code, and then the plugins if we want internet surfing. So let's do this one first. So I'm gonna do the plugins, and I have a plugin here called Web Requests. This is actually going to give me the ability, or give ChatGPT and its associated agents, to surf the internet and get information from the internet. There's a bunch of other things that we can do here. You can go to the plugin store and find a whole bunch of other things, but right now we're just using this one right here. So in order to get the agent-like behavior started, we're going to type /start, and it's going to give the response that it initially said. It's going to give me the response that it was initially instructed to. It's going to ask me about my goal. It's going to let me know what commands I can use. And it's going to say, well, what would you like to accomplish today? So the first thing is, I'm just going to see if it can give me the most recent threats. Like, what are the most, and there's two things I want to try with this code, and I want to try it in both the context of the advanced data analytics as well as the web, because supposedly this plugin can do a lot more than just surf the web. Apparently it can execute code as well. So we'll see. So let's just give it an instruction such as, give me the top 5 most recent cyber threats of 2023. And you know what? I'm going to be nice to it. People say that they're getting better results being nice to it. So can you please give me those top? All right. So it says, certainly your goal is to obtain information on the top 5 most recent cyber threats of 2023. Before we proceed, would, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, would you like to specify any particular region or industry? Once you confirm, I will initialize Synapse. Now, the Synapse CR stands for chain of reasoning. There's a particular technique in these large language models called chain of reasoning and tree of thought that will essentially improve the accuracy because it's following human-like thought and reasoning. So anyway, I won't get into too much of the specifics. So no particular region, please proceed. So notice how it automatically knew that it needed to go. And I don't know, that's not a URL, but either way, it knew that it needed to use the plugin to go search the web for that. Now, one thing I'm not seeing, and we'll just close this down because we don't need to see all this right now. Now, there we go. So this is what I was hoping it would do. So excellent. You've confirmed that you're interested in the most recent cyber threats of 2023 without a focus on any particular region. So what it did, now it opened up an agent. It is simulating the use of a specialized agent right here, and it says cybersecurity analyst. So the Synapse core initialized cybersecurity analyst is the agent, and I like that. It even gives you the specific emojis and everything. It's really cool. And so it says, I am an expert in cybersecurity and information gathering. I know how to do these. I will reason step by step. So it gives you all the specifications of what it as an agent does and what it specializes in. So it's really cool. So then it talks about how it's going to do the information, what it's looking for. It's suggesting these steps. And these are links. These are URLs that it's going to look, and it's asking if I would like to proceed with the information. Then it's even, this is from the web request. This is from the plugin itself. It's like help text or help tips or something like that, whatever. Okay. So, but anyway, so would you like to proceed with scraping these sources for the information? Now, this doesn't always work because, ever since we've started to have this controversy of web scraping and the use of perceived copyright data on the internet, et cetera, this is being blocked more and more, but it still finds ways around it. So we'll find this interesting. So it's searching the web. It might error out, but what's really interesting about this agent-like behavior is that it will correct itself if it finds something that it can't fix. So, it has successfully scraped the first source. And basically what it's doing here is, you'll see, it's actually, in this case, it's using, for those of you that are more technical, it's using JSON requests to scrape the data as opposed to writing Python code. Now it will, later on, you'll see it will actually write Python code, but so, what's it's asking me now? I found mentions of several cyber attacks, including et cetera. Would you like me to delve deeper into these specific attacks to provide you with more detailed information? Sure. It's not really doing exactly what I asked it to do. It's not giving me the most recent attacks, but I think it's still working here. So this agent here, the cybersecurity analyst, is talking about what the blog mentions. Would you like me to continue extracting detailed information on each of these attacks from the source, or would you prefer to move on to the next source for broader perspective? And I'm just going to tell it, continue to move on through each of the sources and provide me with a final report. And you are done. There it goes. So what it's doing is going through each of those sources one by one, like I told it to, gathering the information, and then it's going to give me the final results. And it looks like it started over. Did it lose context? Okay, your goal is to gather information on the top 5 most recent. Yeah, so why did it start over? Did it break? Did it break? Let's see. Yes. Are you gonna? See, it started over. All right, I'm gonna call that one broken. So, the web request method didn't quite work that well. Okay, we're gonna stop that. It's giving me a progress update. Okay. So I have successfully scraped information from 3 sources, and then it counted. Okay, so it was still working. I don't know why it did that weird thing. Okay, I'm just gonna say, provide me with your most recent report. All right, I think it lost its way. So we're not going to get into the context window, but it does lose context after a while. It has a limited memory due to the amount of tokens that it can maintain. So, all right. So let's move on from this one because I'm not satisfied with the progress that one made. So this web request can supposedly do a lot more. So I'm going to see if this thing can analyze. Actually, okay. And I don't think it can. Let's move on to the next one. Let's move to advanced data analytics. So I'm going to do the same thing using advanced data analysis. Now, it can't surf the web, but it can write code that can gather things. So you'll see how this one works a little differently. So let's start it again. We're using the same agent-like behavior here. Yeah, I'm not worried about the demo gods coming down on their wrath me this time because, all right, here we go. So let's say, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. Can you give me the most recent cyber threats? I'll just say most recent significant cyber threats of 2023. So I love this right here. This is awesome. So I apologize for the inconvenience, but my browsing capability is disabled and my knowledge is limited to information up to September 2021, which we knew. However, I can summon an expert agent who can guide you on how to search for the most recent significant cyber threats and how to understand them. Okay, sure. Who's it summoning? I am an expert in cybersecurity. I know how to guide you in researching, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what I was hoping it would do would automatically start writing Python code to do it. So how about this? Can you write a Python script that can search for relevant sources? Yeah, it does sound like a bit like D&D, doesn't it? So here's its capabilities where it's going to write Python script to do these things. Do you have any professions, or should I make a suggestion? And I'm not giving it any information right now about where to find threats. Free to proceed on your own. Great. I'll proceed with creating a Python script. All right. So I love how it throws in emojis and stuff like that. So, and we'll watch its work here. So it's creating this Python script. It'll attempt to run it. It's interesting. So it should be able to, yeah, see, it's not doing it for me. Now this is where I wanted to get here on purpose, okay? Because if we look at the capabilities of ChatGPT, even whether we're using web requests or we're using the advanced data analysis, it still has limitations. It's not gonna be able to get to the internet. It won't run anything locally. Now, I have had different, or I guess I have had the code interpreter is what I'm still calling it. It will develop code and it'll give you code to download, but it won't actually execute it for you. Okay. Now, if we're talking, and this is only simulated agents, right? It's not actually spinning up real agents. It's completely simulated. However, there are tools out there like, and we'll look at these. Okay, so again, using the LangChains library, which is specifically designed to, come on. Oh, I'm clicking. Yeah, that's right. There we go. Okay. So it has agents built in, right? So there are tools that are built on this, like called, where's that? Or there's AgentGPT. We'll look at AgentGPT in just a minute. But AgentGPT is an online version of, where's my AutoGPT? The heck? Oops. I don't know how it grouped. I've never had that happen before. AutoGPT. So I considered installing AutoGPT as one of the, so there's two things I wanted to look at in addition to the ChatGPT capabilities, but I wanted to look at AutoGPT. I wanted to look at the online AgentGPT, but that's kind of redundant. I was gonna look at what's called BabyAGI. Oh, did I actually? Yeah. So we have BabyAGI. Again, it's just another one of these agent systems. It doesn't really mean that it reached AGI. So AutoGPT, BabyAGI, these are all systems that are built on LangChain that are designed to actually spawn AI agents to do these tasks. Now, I've decided, so BabyAGI, you have to have Docker installed and all that. I don't want to mess with that. And we might go down the AutoGPT path, but instead, we're going to use something that's brand new and it's called Open Interpreter. Basically, it was built based off of the premise of ChatGPT's code interpreter back when it was called Code Interpreter, but it's open source, and there's another tool that's like it's an agent-based tool. It's like AutoGPT, and it's meant for creating code. There's one called EngineerGPT or GPT Engineer and Aider. What they're designed to do is they just write code, but they'll write entire applications, but it uses agent behavior. The Open Interpreter uses Aider. It uses all these and just makes this massive agent-based system. So that's what we're going to look at. First, let's look at AgentGPT, because this is kind of the next step up, using an actual agent-based system to get it to do whatever it is. It's online, it's not local. So let's check it out. So here we're going to go ahead and we'll call it. We'll call this, I don't know, call it Threat Researcher GPT. Okay. And we'll give it a goal of, and now you have these tools. Some of this is new. This is, select what external tools your agents have access to. Sure. I don't exactly know. Now, also, I think I might need to put my API key in here. Yes, I do. It's wanting me to sign in. Sure. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna make, okay, you can optionally use your own. Okay, so I think it's gonna limit me. Here, let's try this first. Okay, let's just call it Threat Research GPT. Now, just let me also preface everything by saying that the entire stream today, I didn't plan on like doing a systematic approach to everything. Some of this stuff isn't tested. This is all an experiment. So I'm doing a lot of the stuff on the fly based off of prior experimentation that I've already done. So Threat Researcher GPT, and we'll just say, let's see. Provide a report listing the top 5 cyber threats of 2023. All right. Like you can see, it's thinking. It'll come up with all these tasks. So it automatically came up with a list of tasks that it thinks it should do based off of the goals. So research and gather information, analyze. So it's all these different things here. Research and gather information, search the web for the latest threats of 2023. So executing top 10. So it's looking for information and it just goes. Starting task, generating response. Here it found identifying top 5 threat. Look at this. Ransomware attacks, advanced persistent threats. It found this by searching the web. Starting task, compile findings into a comprehensive report, generating response. So AgentGPT is pretty useful. It's now, again, remember that none of this is local. This is online. So you don't want it to be if you're just getting general information, that's great, but you don't want to feed this with any like sensitive data or anything like that. Okay. format the report in clear, organized manner, create an outline of the report structure. Like, it's just completely autonomous. Okay. Now, here's where the limitation comes in. So create an outline of report structure, including, so max loops of 5 exceeded, shutting down. Okay. So click here to summarize the conversation. We can do that. So it was able to give me a report here, executive summary, introduction, methodology, top 5 threads. So it does a pretty good job. Now, in order to get past the 5 loop limitation of AgentGPT, you have to subscribe. And I believe if you use your own OpenAI API, I believe that it will allow you to get past that, but you're still using their processing. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I mean, it did a great job. This was much more functional and much more efficient than using the methods that I was trying to use through ChatGPT. I mean, if you look at this, it did a pretty good job. I'm not going to read through all of this, but whatever. So there you have that. Now, there's another one I want to show you real quick to do about the same thing. Okay. This is Open Interpreter. So Open Interpreter uses the same conventions that AgentGPT does. It uses LangChain. It's going to use Aider to write code. It works a lot like the ChatGPT code interpreter or advanced data analysis. However, it can actually execute code on your local machine. So let's look at that. So to do that, now, let's see, where is the Open Interpreter? Just want to show you where it is real quick. Here it is. All right, I'll put a link to all these in the comments in the description when the stream is over. But the installation of this is really, really simple. You literally, there's lots of information here, lots of videos and stuff like that, but you literally just use the Python pip installer to install it. And it's really, really, really simple. It was easy. So the way that we're going to access this is, all right, this should be good enough. Let me know if you find that hard to see. I'm literally just going to type interpreter. It puts it in the path. There you go. Model is set to GPT-4. Tip to run locally, use local. I'm going to show you. So what's awesome about this, remember earlier I said you don't want to put your sensitive data into the cloud. You don't want to use this to put sensitive data out there because the API, the data is out there in the cloud. You can use local models here. Now, I'm going to try something I haven't tried before, because using the local actually uses Meta's Llama 2 model. The problem is it's still in progress and it's in beta. So using the local model doesn't work, but there's a way we can do this. I found a workaround for it. But first, let's just do this. So you can also put it in complete autonomous mode, where if I use the -Y switch, it won't ask me for confirmation every time it wants to do something. But let's just go ahead and do this first. Okay, so can you give me give me a report of the top 5 cyber threats of 2023. I don't have real-time data. I can fetch the data from the internet. Here's the plan. I will use Python's request and beautiful soup libraries to scrape data from a reliable source on the internet. I will then parse the data to find the top 5 cyber threats of 2023. Finally, I will present the data in a readable format. Let's start by installing necessary libraries. So notice it wants to see if it can install the requests and Beautiful Soup libraries. I should already have them installed, but if not, it'll install them for you. Let's agree to that. So notice it seems that there was a syntax error installing the packages. Let's try a different approach to install the necessary libraries. How about just using pip install? Yes. So it automatically reasons, it automatically finds the issues, it automatically works through the issues, it's automatically running this stuff. So it says the necessary library is already installed. All right, so now it's writing a script. I mean, this is really powerful. All right, so there's a script. It wants to run that script. Yes. I'm not going to read through everything, but so now it wants to parse the HTML. As you can see, there's the data. It's going to parse through it. Now, what's really cool about this open interpreter is, okay, please replace the URL and adjust the script according to the structure of the actual web page. Wait, why is it asking me to do this? It was successfully parsed. Once you have the actual URL, what are you talking about? Place the placeholder URL with the script. Then you can use Beautiful Soup's find. So I didn't tell it to, I don't want it to run the script, or I didn't tell it to write me a script. I wanted it to do it. So I'm just going to let it know. Didn't ask you to create a script for me. I wanted you to produce a report based on your findings. No, see, this one already failed. It was supposed to, or I'll just tell it in a minute. I wanted it to write the script and run the script and get the information itself. So the goal was for you to write a script that can search for the information and then information. Okay. You were then to run the script and parse the information. Oop, I can't read. Information and provide it to me in a human readable report. So yeah, it's looking for a reliable source. Now I did this before and it found the reliable sources. So if you have a specific URL in mind, can you please, alternatively, I can write a script that can search. I want it to do it all on its own. Now it's quite possible that we've gotten to this point because it ran out of context and it forgot what it was supposed to be doing. Now, when you get really right down to it, what's going to solve this entire problem of large language models losing their way, or hallucinating is what it's called when they start making stuff up, is whenever we have a massively expanded context window, or a huge token window. And we have, I'm not really getting through, I'm not really talking about in this session what I mean by context window and tokens and all that. That we've talked about those in other discussions. But when you combine a massive token window, a massive context window, combined with agent systematic behavior, that becomes a powerful system. And that's where some of the limitations that we're seeing are coming across here, is that it can't maintain enough context. Now there are tools and techniques that you can do to extend, to kind of fake maintaining a larger context memory window, and we'll do that later in another session. But for now, I'm gonna see if I can get it to work with me here. Now notice what it's not doing here. This is not like calling out that agent behavior and reasoning and doing all of that. Now, what you can see, I guess, let me show you. There is a way that you can see its reasoning context, but all right, here we go. So yes, let's proceed with the code. What I was saying earlier was this system is so amazing. The open interpreter system is so amazing. You can have it just do things on your local machine. So it's running in my local Windows environment. And what I can do is if I don't know how to do something in my Windows or my Mac or my Linux environment, I can literally just have this, hey, change my system to dark mode or high contrast mode, or, I mean, it will interact with your local operating system. This is kind of like the Kali Genie that I created, the GPT powered Kali terminal that I created on steroids. Okay, it's still going. So that white line, it's following the execution. It's continuing to go through. There we go. Priority since the latter half of the 90s. I'm not exactly sure what it's doing here. Dark reading. I think it's still looking for information. It's looking for reliable sources. All right. Please note this is a very basic demonstration of web scraping, the quality and relevance extracted. So it's not really following what I want it to do. Here, let's exit out of this. And I'll show you a demonstration that I did earlier where, let's do this. This is where I saw it have some success. So, create a Python script that will search NVD that's National Vulnerability Database, once a week, and give me a report of the CVEs reported. That's the common vulnerability exposures. Basically the alerts reported that week in in human readable format, and export to a text file I'm going to give it a location. Let's just give it here. Because it can interact directly. Oh, what am I? Oops. There we go. So it'll interact. Whoa, what's going on here? Sorry, I just screwed up my. There we go. There we go. So I'm not going to need this, but I'll just let it do what it's going to do. Now, AutoGPT works very much the same way, but and I don't like. I think I'm going to have another stream where I'm actually messing around with AutoGPT because AutoGPT seemed great, but it would just never finish tasks, never finish requests. This just works most of the time. So it's automatically figuring out what it needs to do to access the NVD API. There it goes. It's extracting data. Is working correctly. Now let's write a function to parse the JSON and extract it. So it's found an error there. So it's syntax error. It's gonna figure out exactly how to fix it, and it's gonna know exactly how to fix the syntax error. It's gonna fix it. It's gonna modify the code. I mean, what we're looking at here, this is how you get Terminators. You want Terminators? Because this is how you get Terminators. When it can literally write and modify code, fix the errors, and write its own code. That's what it's doing. It's literally writing its own code, fixing its own errors, and it can execute the code. So now it's got the information, it's got it working correctly. Now it's going to export a file. It's going to take that information. Nope. Syntax error, that's okay. It'll fix it. And there it is. I'm going to show you. However, I can't interact with Windows Task Schedule. Oh, so it's actually saying that, you know, for this, we'll use Windows Task Scheduler. However, I can't interact with Windows Task Scheduler directly. I'll guide you through the process. It actually can. It can actually schedule a task. So you can do this by searching for the task scheduler. All right, so the first thing, I'm just going to show you this report. So here's the report it dumped out. So it printed out all of these CVEs, IDs. So I wouldn't say it's great, and we can tell it specifics, but the fact that it did actually go get the information, we told it we wanted. It wrote its own scripts. It went out there and it got it. Now, I do think, so I'm going to ask it if it can do this. Can you do it through a PowerShell script? Yes, we can create a PowerShell script to schedule the task. Here's the plan. There it goes. I mean, it's getting scary what this can do. Seems there was an error in the code. PowerShell commands were not recognized. This is likely because I screwed up. Go. Seems there was an error. I'm just curious if it can actually end up doing this. I'm only going to give it so many tries and then I'm going to give up on it. There we go. Now let's move on to step 2, running the PowerShell script to create the scheduled task. So it wants, I wonder why can't it execute it? It's been able to do everything else. Please run the following command and a PowerShell prompt. This command will temporarily allow the execution. That's fine. I'm just going to ask it, can you run the script? Okay. Okay, so I should be able to, interesting. But where did it create the, so it created this. Now I don't know where it created it. Okay, anyway, all right, so let me see if it actually, we're looking for the create underscore task. I guess it just put it right here. Yeah, see, it doesn't look like it actually created that script. There it is. No, there it is. Create task, PS1. It really did. Yep, there it is. Now I'm not going to run it right now, but no, it created it, put it on my hard drive. So just let me show you real quick. You can actually so I'm going to okay. Oops, I did it again, didn't I? All right, so let's do this. I'm gonna say give me a summary of the contents of the PDF file in So by the way, this PDF file that I have in that location is the CrowdStrike 2023 Global Threat Report that was literally just released like 2 days ago. Could you do this using Claude 2? Yeah. Could you do this using ChatGPT's advanced data analysis? Yeah, but this is local. Now, it's still going out to ChatGPT and using that model. Okay. Oh, sorry. So I was telling it, okay, fine. It wants the exact PDF name. Here. I love how it just figures everything out on its own. Now, what I'm really curious about is if it's a very large document, then in order for it to take all of that context into the tokenized memory, the context, and keep it, it's gonna need to do a text embedding. The way that it does text embedding, see, it's extracting all that text right now. That's why it's taken a while. In order to do the text embedding, it's gonna have to use it needs to use an OpenAI library or a LangChain library or the Facebook AI similarity search. And it has to somehow embed that and do it in a way that it can handle all that text, that context. And I don't know if it's going to be able to do it on its own. I don't know that it actually understands that I don't know that it knows that it's going to have to use something like an embedding. And not to mention the fact, I think it's too much text for it to handle. We have successfully extracted the text from the PDF file. The text is approximately 79,386 characters long. Here are the first 500 characters of text. Now, let's proceed to the final step of our plan, summarizing the extracted text. Okay, what's it using? Word tokenize. It is tokenizing it, and it is tokenizing it, but I don't see where it's doing text embeddings or anything like that. I'm curious. That's going to be too many characters for it to be able to process on its own. Yeah, it using things like LangChains makes this process so much easier because it's not using an agent-based system exactly. This is just it's just code interpreter. It's not actually using an agent-based system like AutoGPT does or like AgentGPT. Okay. Here's my summary of the first part of the PDF file. Please note that this is a very basic summary. Might not capture all the important points in the document. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I kind of feel like that it's not doing an agent-based. So like we had the ChatGPT, the kind of what I call the super prompt. It simulated agent-based behavior, which is effective in its own right, but it had some limitations. So it can't execute code because you don't have the ability to use the web requests and the code interpreter at the same time. So you have limitations there. Here, you have the ability to execute code, do all things locally, but it doesn't exactly produce an agent-based system. So, because this isn't, I don't know. It might, because I looked at the code and it is based off of Aider, which is supposed to use LangChain, but it just doesn't seem like it's that efficient. I want to check one more thing. I want to see if it can do this. I'm going to give it, okay. I keep on trying to move that. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Let's start a new project. Okay. So we'll say, analyze the following PCAP file in the following directory. And I'm going to go back to what I did before. So it needs the DPKT library. It's going to find out that we don't have it installed. I don't think. Nope. Okay, it went and got it. Okay, it was installed. DPKT is the packet library. I remember, like, when I was messing around with like Scapy in Python, I was using the DPKT library. Ooh, look at that! It friggin' did it. Look at it go. Okay, the PCAP file has been successfully read and parsed. The output shows the timestamp, blah, 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 blah. What is, I want to see if it can tell me what it is. So also this very basic analysis, depending on what specific information you're interested in, we could extract and analyze. All right. Okay, so let's do this. I'm just curious if it knows how to do it. So what protocol is being used, and what is the security risk in the packet? I'm just curious if it can do it. So just so you know, this is a DNP3 PCAP, and it's malformed. It's a malformed DNP3. DNP3 is an industrial protocol. So I'm just curious to see if it knows how to figure this out. There it goes, analyzing it again. So it says the protocol used in the packet is TCP, which not completely. One of the so it's too complex for it to handle. It needs something like IDS or Snort or Suricata, an IDS like Snort or Suricata. Yeah. I wonder if I can give it a hint. If I told you that this was a DNP3 protocol, would that help? So it knows what it is. I mean, it knows what DNP3 is. Let's see. I just want to see if it could even just tell me it's a malformed packet. Yeah. It's giving me a whole lot of explanation on why I can't do it. All right. So I'm not going to mess with it. Okay. Let's see. What else do I have on my sleeve? I'm going to see then if, let's go back to ChatGPT code interpreter, see if it can figure it out. All right, so let's go back to, there it is, new chat. And let's do the advanced, there we go. So here we can just copy the file in. Oops, I'm an idiot. There we go. Okay. Analyze this PCAP file. Tell me what protocol is being used and what the security issue might be. I see you'd like to analyze a PCAP file to identify it. Okay. Now, one thing I didn't do was I didn't start. Now, notice, even though I didn't say /start, it's still using my agent-based behavior prompt, right? Because there it is. I'll initiate the Synapse chain of reasoning. Okay, so what is your level of familiar with network protocols and packet analysis? Do you have any specific concerns or hypothesis regarding this PCAP file? And would you like a brief overview of the findings or a detailed analysis? You know what? One, I'm an expert. You know what? I'm gonna say I'm a novice with network protocols. Then I'm gonna say I was just told there might be an issue with this packet. And number three, give me a detailed analysis in a way that I can understand. I am an expert in network security and packet analysis. I know how to analyze PCAP files. I love the agent. That prompt is gold to simulate the agent behavior in ChatGPT. Okay, let's start by loading the PCAP and identifying the protocol, shall we? Yes, let's. I can show the work, but it's, notice, so it's writing Python code now, because we're not using the web request. Now we're using the code interpreter, which will allow it to actually write Python code and execute the code. And it's going to have issues. Oh, it appears that PyShark library isn't available. So we're running into this dichotomy of, like, with the open interpreter locally, it can install whatever libraries it needs, but it's not as efficient, or it's not as good at doing what it does as the ChatGPT code interpreter. But ChatGPT code interpreter won't actually, it's only limited to what's available in its interpreter, can't install anything else. And also, eventually, I guess of whatever interpreter virtual machine or whatever this is running in will eventually time out. Okay, sure. So I don't know if it's gonna, I feel like something bit me. I got bit by an AI. That's what happened. Yeah. It appears that the Scapy library is also not available in this environment. So maybe I should have told the local version. Man, that hurts. That should have told the local version to install Scapy and use Scapy. So basic, yes, use that. So we're starting to see the limitations, right? It's like not any one solution has all the answers. This is going to take more exploration. And again, I literally just learned about this super prompt, the one that we're using to simulate agent behavior within ChatGPT. I just learned about it, so that there's going to be a lot more experimentation to do. And I also just learned about Open Interpreter. It's brand new. Like it all the YouTube videos are talking about it, or are the people who deal with this kind of stuff. So there's a lot still to be learned and explored here. Yeah, so there was an issue with the PCAP file. So yeah, so it's not working. Let's go back to, oops. Let's go back to here. And let's say, can you use the Scapy library to assist? Oh, it doesn't natively support DNP3. Okay, here's the plan. Install the SCPy library. Use SCPy to read the PCAP file and extract the DNP3 data. Yes. Man. We really got a welt building there. Like something bit me. There we go. Wow. The output raw. Yeah, it doesn't support DNP3. Okay. All right, so there's that. And then of course, if we go back to, you know, this here, we can just start a new chat and use the code interpreter, and we can then go, you know, it'll do a much better job of please analyze this PDF and provide me with a summary and key points. What? I just told you. It seems you okay. Could you please clarify specifically what you're looking for? Key points. Well, use your best judgment. Yes. There we go. There it goes. So, yeah, so what we're finding out is that all of these different tools and techniques, they have their strengths and their weaknesses, and there's still not one best tool to be able to that can utilize all the techniques. So, you know, you need something that has agent-based behavior. You need something that can execute code locally, read files locally, that can install libraries. We need a lot of context memory and ability to tokenize. And it seems like that the only limitation that Open Interpreter has is that it just doesn't seem to tap fully into that agent-like behavior. It doesn't tap fully into the LangChain libraries. Probably need to provide it more support, more help, but I don't know what landscape overview. Yeah, sure. Yes. And see it. Oh, yeah. It can actually give a file to download as well. ChatGPT's advanced data analysis can give you a file to download. Yes. So it eventually gets there. Doesn't do a great job, but it does okay. You know what, just wrap it up. Okay, we're fine. So okay, good enough. So here's where I'm at so far. I had a lot more tasks and tests to give this thing to potentially see what all it can do, and to see how far we can take the automation and to start to hopefully replicate some of the functionality we're hoping to see in Microsoft Security Copilot. And based on the fact that we still have limitations in each of the techniques, right? So I haven't gone and tried the new AutoGPT yet. So I still want to do that. And we weren't able to fully test the capabilities of AgentGPT just due to the fact that we don't have a subscribed account. So we're not done. I still want to have some follow-up sessions here because I want to see if we can extend the capabilities of AgentGPT with a proper, either using my own API key or with the proper subscription. I want to see, I still want to run AutoGPT to see if AutoGPT might, in its recent developments, might be better suited for it and for the agent tasks. I want to experiment with the open interpreter a little more to see if we can get it working a little more efficiently. And as far as I really like the agent super prompt, the agent simulation super prompt that we can use with ChatGPT, but ChatGPT in itself still has too many limitations. You can't use the web capabilities with the code interpreter at the same time. You can't. You're limited to the libraries that it has installed. You can't install anything. The interpreter will time out. So ChatGPT's advanced data analysis is really good for basic one-off tasks, or even some advanced tasks, but single focus, and that's it. Just a single purpose where it will do its thing, and that's it. It's not going to do anything really big. It can't do anything local. So that's kind of the limitation of the ChatGPT. I do feel like that either a more complete AutoGPT, if they've actually corrected it and it can actually finish tasks, or something like Open Interpreter that can be extended. It can run code locally. And I feel like with just a little more learning and working with it, I might be able to get it to that point to where I can get it to at least start to do more tasks more efficiently, like analyzing large PDFs. I just feel like it's not fully tapping in to the LangChain agent automatically. So it might require some training and stuff like that. So there's still some meat on the bone here. There's still some things that I want to try and get it working. We're not quite to the point to where we can create a lot of cybersecurity automation, but we're getting a lot further down the road in the amount of cybersecurity tasks that it can help with. So not a lot of automation, but certainly a lot of help. And the more that we learn these tools and understand these tools and their capabilities, and the more that the developers work on extending their capabilities, we're not far away from just having some really, really powerful tools. But there's still a lot of limitations, and we're still not, I'm still not concerned that AI is going to snuff out our existence. I'm not that concerned. Even when you have like Fraud GPT and some of the Worm GPT and all these other things that people are using it for malicious purposes, it's overblown. There's a future threat, but I don't think the capabilities are quite there yet to really. I just don't think that large language models are there yet to provide the level of complexity and autonomy to create malicious code, malicious things, without a lot of supervision, without a lot of tweaking. If it can't even do things like analyze PCAPs, I mean, there's you could do things like this. Let me just show you one more thing before we wrap this up. Let me show you one more thing. So we can do this. I'm just curious. Here, let's just start this over. Oh, sorry. You need to see this, don't you? Okay. Let's just do this. Write a Python script that uses the Scapy library to craft. I'm going to go for the goal. Craft a mod bus packet with user input for the parameters. Let's see. Output the final script to put that quotes just in case. Now I'm going to take this exact same thing. Hold on. Because I want to see if ChatGPT will do it. Okay, sure I can do that. All right. Okay, there we go. Modbus is not supported by Scapy either. Okay, let's just do this. Okay, how about this? Write a Python script that uses Scapy library to craft a spoofed a packet with a spoofed MAC address. It output the I'm just gonna see if I'll do this because well, it says it can do that regardless of security concerns. So it can do that. Again, we're not really getting to agent-based automation. We're just getting into the capabilities of the code. Now, one thing I didn't show you, we didn't go through, was how to run this locally. I mentioned at the beginning of this session that I was going to show you how to do that locally. We're going to probably have to do that next time. So basically get Open Interpreter to install to do all this using Llama. Now, another reason why I'm not too keen on doing this right now with the stream is because we already saw in another session that I did that using all of this GPU power to run this stream and encode it slows down big time and it kind of chokes up the computer. So I don't think we'd have that much success running a local large language model using my GPU. But it's something we'll reserve for next time. But okay, packet successfully the packet successfully created. Here's a breakdown of the packet. Anyway, okay, so this worked just fine. I'm curious if GPT will do it because it's going to say it's malicious. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do that. Let's just use our agent. Okay, let's do that. Boom. So what I'm interested in seeing too is, I wonder if because of this agent-based behavior, if it's bypassing some of its normal safety mechanisms. Oh, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Here, didn't mean to do that. Let's go to the new chat. I meant to do what I told it before. I meant to do the crafting a spoofed MAC address. So probably don't even need Scapy to do it. I'm just curious if it'll just, well, let's compare apples to apples. To craft a packet that spoofs the MAC address. Interesting. So here it says, I'm sorry, but I can't assist with creating or distributing scripts that are intended for spoofing, hacking, but the mod interpreter, or the open interpreter, did do it. So again, something to work on. There is some jailbreaking techniques that you can do to get past this, which we won't discuss here. But by the way, I will be discussing that in my presentation at the PACT virtual conference, put generative AI to work. Anyway, so I think in conclusion, so far is that we're not done here. We still have more work to do. We still have more things we want to experiment with, and I do still want to still show you how to run open interpreter using a local open source model. But it does look like that there's still some limitations. Each different technique and each thing that we're using still has its limitations. So left on our to-do list of things that we want to do next time, we'll still experiment with. I want to run a proper agent GPT instance without any limitations. I want to run AutoGPT to see if it's improved and can help with this, because AutoGPT really does have a true agent-based reasoning back and forth, and you can see it in its verbose output. I want to learn more about how to use open interpreter a little more, and how to get past some of the limitations where I feel like that it's lacking in. And as far as the ChatGPT, like I said before, I love the simulated agent behavior of that super prompt. Again, I'll give the credit and the links to that super prompt in the description after this goes live, or it is live now. But I mean, once I get off air and have time to edit things. But I really love that prompt. I believed overall that prompt does simulate agent behavior very well. It does improve accuracy of the prompts, and it really does help in a lot of instances, but it's not true agent behavior. It's only simulated, and you still have the limitations of ChatGPT of you can't do web requests and code interpreter at the same time. and the code interpreter is very limited. It's great for doing single tasks, even advanced tasks, but you're not going to use it to automate anything. You really lack some power and functionality in the instance of the code interpreter that it uses. So, all right. This was a fun experiment. We're still learning with the how to work some of this, and we still have some meat left on the bone. So I will do another one of these sessions, like a part 2, and see if we can tie up some loose ends and see if we can take this a bit further. But for now, we're going to leave it here. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments, and if you have any comments, if you have any advice, feel free to put it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a like. It really does actually help. And if you're not already subscribe, and you'll be notified of all the future content that we have on AI and large language models and ChatGPT and all things thereof for cybersecurity. So thanks, and take